Why does Europe seem so intent on cracking down on American tech giants with regulations and sky-high fines? Shouldn't they be celebrating these history-making companies instead? When you examine the strained transatlantic relationship around technology, some clear reasons emerge explaining Europe's growing frustration. From feelings of being left behind digitally to exploitation claims around taxes, resentment has been building for years. Now the question remains, could the simmering tension erupt into an all-out tech trade war across the Atlantic? Europe's growing frustration. Why does Europe seem so hostile towards American tech behemoths like Google, Apple, and Facebook? Why the never-ending barrage of multi-billion-dollar fines, restrictive regulations, and dramatic lawsuits? Shouldn't European politicians be celebrating these history-making companies instead of constantly trying to punish them? It's a fair question to ask. After all, these American tech innovators have revolutionized everything from communication to commerce to entertainment for billions of people across the globe. Countries like Germany, France, and the UK use American social networks, smartphones, cloud services just as much as the US does. Yet, if you peer closer at this dysfunctional relationship between Europe and the Silicon Valley, some clear reasons emerge for why it's grown so adversarial and contentious over the years. There is a simmering frustration felt by European leaders around how much power and influence these American tech firms hold, especially in light of Europe's own failure to create its own digital champion. Shockingly, only 2 obscure European tech companies even cracked the top 10 most valuable companies worldwide as of 2023, while 7 of the top 10 hail straight from America's tech sector. How exactly did an entire continent with close to 750 million residents fall so far behind the Silicon Valley in what has clearly become the defining industry of this generation? Could it be European complacency, risk aversion, and lack of incentive for innovation be largely to be blamed? Or have the American tech simply been able to grow unchecked in a much more nurturing regulatory environment? Either way, it's no wonder feelings of resentment and envy have kept building up as European leaders gaze longingly from across the Atlantic. A feeling left behind. Indeed, Europe's failure to produce global tech champions compared to the endless parade of titans emerging from Silicon Valley has become a sore point for the EU leaders and pro-business advocates. They see it as both as a lost economic opportunity as well as a blow to European standing in the global digital economy. Consider the sheer dominance of American superstars like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, Google, and Meta, Facebook, just to name a few. Combined, they are worth nearly $10 trillion, more than the GDP of most countries on Earth. And the gap only appears to be widening as European firms struggle to keep pace with breakneck growth from across the pond. Many trace Europe's tech shortcomings back to the pivotal decades of the 1960s and 70s, when visionaries across California began funding the building blocks for computers, networking, and software. At the same time, Europe mostly stood still, failing to cultivate the same culture of risk-taking, investments, and entrepreneurial ambition which blossomed in Silicon Valley. Fast forward to today, and experts estimate this failure to stimulate local tech innovation and growth has led Europe to forego nearly $3 trillion in additional GDP over the past 15 years alone. No wonder EU bureaucrats feel downright envious and anxious when gazing at the sheer size and scope of running hypergrowth American tech companies. They are constantly reminded of missed opportunities. Perception of being exploited. Now, Europe's envy over America's tech dominance will be easier to swallow if Silicon Valley's finest behave like considerate guests while operating across the Atlantic. But unfortunately, European politicians' alleged firms like Apple, Google, and Amazon seem to have taken endless advantage of Europe's most forgiving tax laws and large consumer base while giving back minimal returns for local economies. Essentially, Brussels feels Europe has been playing a host to golden geezers like Apple and Amazon for years, giant fountains for profit and innovation. Yet, European nations receive shockingly little fiscal benefits in return compared to the United States, even as these titans hover up billions annually from European consumers. Take Apple for example, the world's most valuable public company. Cleverly structured subsidiaries allow Apple to route billions in profits through countries like Ireland and Luxembourg to enjoy microscopic tax rates as low as 0.005%. Yet at the same time, Apple has no qualms reporting tens of billions in sales across high-tax countries like Germany, France, Italy, and the UK. We have to adapt our corporate tax systems to the 21st century global economy, argues former EU Commissioner Pierre Moscovici. Between the punishing fines, forced changes in business practices, and constant legal threats, it's clear European patience with Silicon Valley has badly deteriorated. Resentment continues to climb around foreign tech reaping disproportionate rewards overseas while Europe's own digital economy lags woefully behind. This strained relationship seems on a collision course as long as both issues persist. Anxiety over fading relevance. Finally, could Europe's relentless regulatory and legal assault against likes of Apple, Google, and other American giant tech firms stem from anxieties over fading power and relevance over the world stage? Some political theorists argue that European bureaucrats are deeply concerned over the continent sliding into museum-like economy and cultural decline as demographic challenges multiply and digital innovations dries up amongst homegrown companies. They point to statistics about shrinking working-age populations and risk-averse entrepreneurs. The European mindset has become dangerously risk-averse, argues Austrian political economist Leopold Kohr. Burdened by socialist bureaucracy and now beset by pessimism over the future, Europe retreats from the breakthrough thinking and ambitious risk-taking which fuels pioneering companies like America's Apple, Google, and Microsoft. In this context, Europe's unrelenting fines and regulations of Silicon Valley can be seen less as rational policy for technology excesses and more like a cry for exasperation around the continent's own difficulties embracing digital innovation. An impotent act of lashing out against the ruling digital elite by those being left behind by technology's breakneck pace. Whether due to demographic struggles, bureaucratic meddling, or insufficient digital ambition, the innovation gap dividing the Atlantic looks immense and still growing. Can Europe somehow turn the tide through perfectionist measures against foreign technology giants while stimulating more local innovation? Or will envious gazing towards American shores only breed more bitterness in years to come? The growing tech clash. As tensions between Europe and American tech superpowers continue to escalate, it begs the question: could we be witnessing the early stages of a massive tech clash between the two allied regions? Up until now, the European strategy amounts mostly to stern warnings, targeted fines, and pessimal regulations. But some theorists argue that this could merely represent the initial phase before a more seismic tech standoff. So far, Brussels has only thrown rocks to get Silicon Valley's attention, argues Dutch economist Bas Jacobs. It may be merely a warning before Europe progresses to regulations with actual teeth that could force tech giants to their knees. Imaginations run wild around what punitive European action against Apple, Google, or other giants could emerge next. Some proposals floated include breaking up companies along business lines in the name of fostering competition. Others propose banning acquisitions to prevent giants like Amazon and Alphabet from gobbling up more power. And others suggest handicapping American tech giants to lucrative European markets without greater taxation. Of course, instigating an all-out tech war runs major risks too, especially for a region still lagging behind in digital innovation prowess. Could obstruction foreign tech backfire by only slowing European digital adoption? Might protectionist policies isolate Europe and reduce availability of world-class services locals have come to depend on? And would provoking American tech giants only cause them to retaliate in kind, starving Europe's economy of the oxygen from foreign investments and entrepreneurs that will remain vital ingredients even as continents drift further apart? To make peace or prepare for battle. With the roots of today's transcontinental tech tensions traced back decades ago, we stand at a crossroad in 2023. Is it possible that this dysfunctional relationship between Europe and American tech giants has reached an inflection point? Years of envy and perceived mistreatment have stroked simmering hostility, with EU fines now in the billions. Yet dependency persists on both sides. Can pragmatism prevail over pride? Or will rupturing tensions unleash a transatlantic tech trade war? The decision ahead by leaders in Brussels and Silicon Valley will shape our digital future, for better or worse. Please smash that like button and subscribe if you want to see more global economic analysis.